There's been quite a few developments recently in regards to the XL2 for sound insulation measurement. In place of Excel spreadsheets, we're now using a PC application, which is much more professional looking. It's much tighter. It's much more efficient in terms of producing reports and slicing and dicing your data. So the idea of this little short video for the next 2 or 3 minutes is just to give you an overview of how that looks and how where we're heading with it. So if we start first of all by reminding you of the way that source, receiving, background and reverberation time measurements are labeled. So if we look at the source room labeling, so very often it's NL1 or simply NL. The receiving room is L2. Background is often B or B2, and reverberation time measurements are T2. So bearing that in mind, if we now switch to the XL2, when we do a quick measurement, and I'll just switch the sound source on here, don't worry too much about the time in the bottom right hand corner or even the levels produced by the sound source. It's really just an illustration of the process. So that was our source room measurement, and we wanted to save that. We'd go along to the icon with the question mark. We'd choose the directory that you're going to store your measurement in. So 43 King Street will do for now. Click on Save Test, and now there's an option here called Sound Insulation or Sound Insul. So if I click on that, then I can use one of a number of pre-recorded name templates to store the measurement data. So the L1-1 is the source room for speaker position 1. L1-2 is the source room with speaker position 2. Receiving room with speaker position 1. L2-2 is receiving room, speaker position 2. And then the background and the reverberation time. So if we were doing 6 measurements, we'd have L1-1, 001, L1-1, 002, or if you're using a scanning technique, then obviously you'd simply have one measurement for each of these labels. So how does that look in the directory structure of the XL2? Well, let me just switch to mass storage, and then I'll pull up the file manager. So if I go to projects here and then click on 43 King Street, so now you can see it's quite easy to pick out this measurement here. For example, this is source room, speaker position 2, measurement number 5. So it's a little bit easier to understand which measurement relates to which room or which position. So that's one side of the improvements, but where the real improvements have come along is really in the application. So in this case, let's start a new measurement. So if I click on New, I would choose the standard that I'm going to be doing measurements to. Very often in England and Wales it would be applied document E, maybe ISO 140 for some measurements which might have been done a couple of years ago to the old standard. And for you it would almost certainly be 90% of the time would be ISO 16283. You choose airborne or impact, and then specify here the number of speaker positions or the number of tapping machine positions. So in this case, speaker positions 2, and although we can have calculation of as many indices as we want, we're probably in this case only interested in the DNT. So we'll click OK there. Now if I import the measurements, and if I go to the XL2 and find my folder 43 King Street, I simply select the folder, and then all of the measurements related to that project are imported in one go. So this obviously is quite a nice feature in pulling the data into the application. Plus the way it's laid out here is also very beneficial. If you can see that the red traces here are the level against frequency for the source room, the blue traces are the receiving room, the green traces are the background, and then the purple traces along the bottom here are the reverberation time. So it'd be quite easy to pick out an outlier, something that you would think is not something you want to include in your measurements. So this one here where my cursor isn't too bad, but let's, for illustrative purposes, simply remove it. So B2 underscore 001 B2, which is that one there. So you can see that it's highlighted. If I don't like the look of that, think it's too different to any of the other measurements of the same type that I've done, I can simply choose to delete it. So then up here in these fields we can add the client name for the certificate, the object, living room maybe to dining room, and maybe a description of the build, so plasterboard and dabs. Then obviously the area of the common partition, the source room volume and the receiving room volume are for documenting the test rather than any effect on the result. The date of the test picks that up from the measurement data, but you can have the opportunity to change that. You can add a unique number for the report and select a date for the generation of the report, so today being the 6th of December. So this measurement data can be taken as it is into a spreadsheet. So if we wanted to take that data into Excel, for example, so if I open up a blank worksheet, I can take any data that I wanted to into a spreadsheet, be that a blank spreadsheet or a Citrix spreadsheet or anything else you happen to be using. So let's try that again. Yeah, so there we go. So there's all of the complete measurement set of data. If we now look at move to the calculation icon, here we can see the average data. So the L1-1 is this line consisting of these measurements. The L2 for speaker position 1 are these measurements. You can also see how the receiving room level might be affecting, or might be very close to the background level. So the background level is shown simultaneously with the receiving room level to indicate if there are any areas to be concerned about. The difference, the level difference between source and receiving, the average source room for speaker position 2, etc., etc. So if I wanted to take this data into a spreadsheet, I just click on copy and then paste that in. Let's have a new spreadsheet in this case. Paste in that whole block into a spreadsheet. Could be the Citrix spreadsheet, or it could be anything else you happen to be using. But ultimately the result is here. This is the DNTW, and you can see the CTR in the bottom right hand corner, and we have the option of removing, say, this measurement and see what result that would have, what effect that would have on our result. If we're happy with our DNTW calculation, then we would simply print it off in the standard format. So here you can see the information we put into the opening spreadsheet or the opening worksheet about the client and the object and the type, the description, the result, and this is probably what you would print off and put into a client report. So in essence, very quickly, that is what the improvements to the firmware and the SAN installation reporter software are offering, and this is now, both of those options are now on the website and available to download.